Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're diving into a story that's, well, it's kind of like a political thriller, you know? We've got loyalty, betrayal, even a possible hit job, and it all ends up with someone apologizing to President Trump.
Sounds crazy, right? But it really gets you thinking about, how quickly things can change in politics. One minute you're loyal, the next you're feeling completely betrayed.
Exactly. And our main source for this wild ride is a letter. Yeah, a personal letter published online by a guy named David Vogel. This guy went undercover for Trump, got into some serious legal trouble, and now he's basically saying, I was wrong about everything.
It's fascinating how this all ties into the bigger picture, too. We're not just talking about one guy's story here. We're talking about, the systems we rely on, the systems that are supposed to protect us, and how sometimes they just fail.
Okay, so let's rewind a bit, set the scene. We're talking about New York City back in the mid-2000s. Think rampant corruption, especially among these building inspectors. They were basically shaking people down for bribes, promising to lower tax assessments in exchange.
And this is where Trump's personality really comes into play. He's always been a fighter, hates feeling cheated, and he absolutely refused to play that game.
He went toe-to-toe with the city, sued them, and actually exposed the whole scheme. He ended up getting a huge tax break for Trump World Tower. It was a big win for him, proved his point, but, well, every victory leads to another battle.
Right, and in this case, the battle was over legal fees. Trump wanted the board of Trump World Power to pay him a hefty sum, something like $30 million, for all the legal work that went into fighting that corruption case.
And then we have Drew Aaron, an investment banker on the board. He somehow managed to negotiate that down to $15 million. Not bad, right? But not everyone was happy.
No, not at all. There was this one board member, Barry Jacobson, who was dead set against paying Trump anything. And when I say dead set, I mean it. This guy had a reputation for being, let's say, volatile.
Things escalated quickly. Jacobson actually threatened Drew Aaron, said he'd kill him if he voted to pay Trump. You might think, oh, just tough talk. But Jacobson was not the kind of guy you messed with. People took him seriously.
Enter David Vogel, our undercover agent. He saw what was happening, knew he had to do something, so he agreed to go undercover for Trump's team to gather evidence against Jacobson. Talk about pressure.
He was basically wearing a wire, meeting with Jacobson's people, trying to get him to incriminate himself. And you know what? It worked. Vogel got enough evidence to have Jacobson removed from the board, and the lawsuit was eventually settled.
But here's the kicker. According to Vogel, Trump never even knew about his role in all of this. This guy was risking his neck for Trump, and the guy he's doing it for had no clue.
Wild, right? Makes you think about loyalty, what drives someone to go to such lengths, especially when the person they're doing it for might not even realize it.
And it raises a big question. If Trump had known about the risks Vogel was taking, what would he have done? Would he have condoned it? Tried to protect him? We can only guess, but it adds another layer to this whole story.
So we've got undercover operations, boardroom drama, and a powerful figure who's seemingly unaware of the sacrifices being made on his behalf. And this is just the beginning.
Yeah, things are about to take a turn for Vogel, and we start to see how even blind faith in someone like Trump can have some pretty serious consequences.
So we left off with David Vogel, this devoted Trump supporter, willing to go undercover and risk it all. But now things take a dark turn. It's 2007, and Vogel finds himself facing some serious federal charges. Conspiracy, they said, all tied to his business dealings.
It's important to remember that those charges, they're a little fuzzy. Even the government had hinted before that what Vogel did might not have been illegal. But still, he was convicted, ended up spending time in prison.
Can you imagine how that must have felt? I mean, he put everything on the line for Trump, and then, bam, he's behind bars, feeling totally abandoned by the very person he thought he was helping.
It really shows how quickly things can flip in politics. Loyalty one day, resentment the next. And it makes you question, the systems we think are supposed to protect us.
Yeah, it makes you wonder if Vogel started to doubt Trump at that point. I mean, here he is, paying the price, and Trump's seemingly moved on, oblivious to his situation.
Absolutely. And to add insult to injury, Vogel's watching other people getting pardons, while his own pleas for clemency are going nowhere. He was convinced that Trump had just, forgotten about him.
So we've got Vogel feeling betrayed, watching others get a second chance while he's stuck. But then something interesting happens. The First Step Act. This big criminal justice reform bill. And guess who signs it into law in 2018?
President Trump. This act was a game changer, really. It had support from both sides of the aisle and aimed to, reduce the chances of people going back to prison and give them more support to get back on their feet. things like earning time off for good behavior and programs to help them reintegrate into society.
And Vogel benefited directly from this, right? He got out of prison early because of those changes.
Exactly. Pretty ironic, isn't it? The man Vogel felt had abandoned him ends up being the one who signed the legislation that set him free.
Talk about a mind trip. To feel betrayed by someone and then be given a second chance because of their actions.
It's complicated, for sure. Shows the, well, sometimes conflicting nature of our justice system and how political decisions can have a huge impact on individual lives.
And Vogel's story, it's not just about him and Trump. It sheds light on how so many people feel let down by the system, people who believe they've been wrongly accused, unjustly punished.
Right. And to drive that point home, Vogel actually put together a fundraiser for another man facing similar accusations, Lynn DeVecchio, a decorated FBI agent who got falsely accused of helping the mob commit murders.
So we have this parallel story emerging. It's not just Vogel who feels this way. What happened with DeVecchio, and why do you think Vogel felt so strongly about helping him?
DeVecchio's case, it was, well, eerily similar to Vogel's. He was respected, then suddenly hit with these serious charges based on what many believed was shaky evidence. And like Vogel, he felt betrayed by the very institutions he dedicated his life to.
So by doing this fundraiser, it sounds like Vogel was going beyond just raising money. It was like finding someone who truly got what he was going through, someone who understood that feeling of being wrongly accused and abandoned.
Absolutely. It speaks to a shared sense of injustice, that feeling that the system is, well, rigged against anyone who dares to stand up for what they believe in, even if it means going against powerful people.
We've got Vogel wrestling with his own feelings, trying to make sense of the fact that the man he felt abandoned by also signed the legislation that got him out of prison. And now he's connecting with others who've experienced that same injustice. You can really feel his disillusionment growing.
And that disillusionment, it's about to reach a breaking point. Because a simple question forces him to confront everything he thought he knew about Trump.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What was the question, and why did it hit Vogel so hard?
It's 2024, and two people close to Vogel, people he considers like family, they asked him point blank, "Are you sure President Trump even knew about your case?"
Sometimes it's the simplest questions that pack the biggest punch. How did Vogel react?
It knocked him off his feet, basically. Yeah. He had been so caught up in his anger, in his resentment, that he never considered whether his plea had even reached Trump.
It's like he had this whole story built up in his head, this narrative of betrayal, without ever checking if it was true.
Classic case of confirmation bias. He was so sure that Trump had abandoned him that every silence, every lack of action just confirmed it in his mind.
But that one question, it forced him to face the possibility that he might have been wrong all along.
And that's a hard pill to swallow. To question years of deeply held beliefs, to think, what if I've been wrong about something this big? It's unsettling, to say the least.
So Vogel's whole world is kind of shaken up. He has to confront the idea that maybe he misjudged Trump, that his whole perception of what happened might be based on a false assumption. What happens next?
This realization, it triggers a huge shift in Vogel's thinking. He starts questioning everything. His relationship with Trump, his role in the events that led to prison, everything.
It makes you think about how often we create our own realities based on, well, not much information, assumptions, interpretations that might not be the whole truth.
Totally. And for Vogel, this leads to a wave of guilt, remorse. He realizes he misjudged Trump, let his anger cloud his judgment, and now he feels like he owes him an apology.
So what does he do with this newfound clarity? Does he reach out to Trump, try to set things straight?
That's exactly what he does. In his letter, he talks directly to Trump, expresses his sincere regret for accusing him of betrayal, admits that he let his emotions take over, that he was wrong to assume Trump had intentionally abandoned him.
Wow, that's a powerful moment of accountability. But Vogel's story, it goes beyond just personal redemption. It exposes a much bigger problem, a systemic issue at the core of the pardon system that needs attention.
He argues that the Office of the Pardon Attorney, the people who are supposed to be reviewing these petitions, they don't have the resources to really investigate claims of actual innocence.
Wait a minute. So the system that's designed to fix miscarriages of justice, it can't even figure out if someone is actually innocent in the first place?
Sadly, that's the reality. And Liz Oyer, the head of that office, has even said it publicly. They simply don't have enough people to properly look into every claim of innocence.
That's pretty shocking. So
Right.
people could be sitting in prison claiming they're innocent, and the system just can't handle it.
It's a huge problem, and it has real consequences for people like Vogel, like DeVecchio.
So what's the fix? How do you fix a system that's this broken?
Vogel has an idea, a bold one. He wants to use retired FBI agents to investigate these claims. They have the experience, the training, and they can bring that level of scrutiny that's missing right now.
Interesting. So Vogel goes from feeling betrayed by Trump to advocating for a system that relies on Trump to implement it. He's come full circle, believing again that Trump can make a difference.
Exactly. And he points to the First Step Act as proof that Trump's willing to shake things up, to go against the grain when he thinks it's necessary.
So Vogel's letter, it's more than just an apology. It's a call to action, a plea to Trump to challenge the status quo and fix a system that's failing the people who need it most. It's amazing how this whole thing started with like a possible murder plot at Trump World Tower, and now we're talking about the entire pardon system. Makes you wonder how many other David Vogels are out there.
Right. How many people stuck in prison, claiming they're innocent, but the system's so backed up, their cries for help just get lost in the noise?
It's a pretty unsettling thought, and it really highlights how much faith we put in these systems, you know? We assume they'll work, protect the innocent, punish the guilty, but Vogel's story shows how easily they can break down.
And it's even more concerning when you hear people like Liz Oyer, who are running these systems, basically admitting they're flawed, saying they don't have the resources, the manpower to really dig into these claims of innocence.
So it's like, yeah, we know it's messed up, but what can we do? Not exactly a comforting answer.
Nope. And that's why Vogel's push for reform is so important. We can't just sit here and accept a system that leaves potentially innocent people behind bars while others, maybe even guilty ones, are walking free.
His idea about using retired FBI agents to investigate, it sounds like a pretty good place to start. Experienced investigators who can really get to the bottom of things.
Yeah, it's a practical solution with, I think, real potential. And the fact that Vogel sees Trump as the one to make this happen after everything he went through, it's telling.
It's like his faith in Trump's, I don't know, his disruptive power has been reignited. He sees Trump as someone who's not afraid to challenge the establishment, to shake things up and get stuff done.
Remember, this is the guy who pushed through the First Step Act, even with resistance from both sides. So him taking on this challenge, it's not completely out there.
So it sounds like Vogel's letter, it's more than just an apology. It's a call to action, a challenge to Trump to step up and fix this broken system.
Exactly. And no matter what Trump decides, Vogel's story has started an important conversation about the cracks in our justice system and the need for serious change.
That's what's so fascinating about this whole deep dive. We went from this tale of loyalty and betrayal to a deep exploration of these systemic issues that affect so many people.
It reminds us that we can't just blindly trust the systems that run our lives. We got to scrutinize them, challenge them, demand better.
Vogel's journey has been a whirlwind. Loyalty, betrayal, anger, resentment, and in the end, a sense of hope, a call for action. It's a powerful reminder that even when you feel abandoned by the systems you thought you could trust, there's always a chance for redemption, for yourself and for those systems.
And it shows how important it is to question what we think we know, to challenge our own biases, and to never give up on the idea of a more just world.
Well, that's all the time we have for today's deep dive. Thanks for joining us as we dug into this incredibly complex and thought-provoking story. It's one of those stories that sticks with you, makes you think, makes you question things, and hopefully makes you consider your own role in building a better future.